with me about Branded. Are you really ready for Chaos Origins? If you're a Branded player, this is going to be very important for you because the next few months are going to introduce a series of decks and variations of those decks that can be a major problem for Branded if not properly prepared for. This also is going to most likely force a fundamental shift in how we use our sideboard and what we main deck along with our usual suite of non-engine to prepare ourselves for what's to come. And if you don't do it, you're not going to have a fun time. If you are enjoying the content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. As we did just recently hit 1,000 subscribers, and every like and view counts as we try to grow the channel. And be prepared for a new series of videos coming to the channel called Branded Despia for Dummies. Just like its original namesake, the For Dummies series, we will be creating a series of video books, audio books in the form of videos that will allow new and experienced players to enjoy learning about Branded while they're doing pretty much almost anything else. I think the Branded community, especially the people who have joined the channel and hung out with me, have inspired me to do this for the community. And it will be completely free. It'll be a very long video series, but we will aim to upload the first maybe 5 or so videos, or maybe 5 or so videos worth of content, which I don't even want to call it content. It's more like a curriculum at this point. I spent a lot more time on it than I thought I would. This, along with whatever supplementary information or guides you're getting from other places like Metafy, will probably be, a great way to be able to play Branded and understand exactly how to not only play the deck, but also play with the right mindset, which, is required for this deck. And we'll delve into that when the video series comes. I would like to aim for next week to at least post a few videos out to look forward to it. All right. So, as you can see, we have a deck list in front of all of us. It's a 41-card deck list for Branded in anticipation of the new Corey format. Now, there are 3 main decks we're going to be really focusing on in this video. It's going to be the Chaos deck, the Chaos Ritual deck, which can do multiple variations. Then we have the Chess deck, also known as Angelic Key, and then we also have Blitzclick. All right. So whether you think Blitzclick or Angelic Key or Chaos is in tier 1, 2, or whatever, it doesn't really matter. They present a unique problem for Branded to solve, for the whole format to solve, and it's something that I haven't had to worry about for a while, not to the degree of recent formats. So what I'm going to do now is express my opinion on my initial thoughts on what I think Branded will have to do, which will justify certain choices I've made. Then we're going to look at a few videos online and see if that holds water, if that holds up. This will be a very, very long stream because we're looking at several videos that are quite long. And then after that, we're going to sit back and see if we have changed our minds about any particular thing. So this will be a lot of reaction content, a lot of information from multiple content creators that I respect, and we'll see if if anything I've said holds water or if it's correct. So let's get right into the video. Before I do, I'm gonna turn off the music because I want to be able to concentrate better on what I'm trying to say here. So one of the most important things that Branded is going to have to do that seems to create a Venn diagram of sorts when I'm talking about the 3 decks coming out for Corey, whether it's Chaos, whether it's Blitzclick, and whether it's Angelic Key. There's going to be a higher emphasis on spell and trap destruction, and not just spell and trap destruction, but removal in general. The reason why I say removal instead of destruction is because compared to other formats where Lightning Storm or a Harpy's Feather Duster will do going second, and oftentimes just having simply a Chaos Star Source or a Borreload Furious Dragon along with the Fall and the Virtues, would be enough. These 3 decks present extremely majorly problematic cards that are face up on the field that are not monsters. Whether they're field spells, continuous traps, or spells, you'll need multiple ways to consistently apply pressure against those sources in order to prevent your opponent from snowballing against you. In the case of the Chaos Ritual deck, they have many options that will be able to recur their resources, as well as dodge and prevent targeting and non-targeting disruption. So we got to really watch out for these. We're going to go over all of these cards one by one, and some of the things I think we need to look out for. All right. So let's start off with the Blitzclick cards. It's not in any particular order, but I did try to order all of them by their archetype, right? So we'll start off with Blitzclick first. We have, and actually let me move the chat so I can, so you guys can see it a little bit better, okay? All right, so we have the, honestly, maybe we should have some music on, huh? Yeah, maybe music would be better. And I'm starting to feel like I'm in an empty room. There we go. All right. So, let's talk about the cards in a vacuum. So we have the Blitzclick Alternator. This is one of the traps that they're definitely going to want on the board. And your monster, all your monsters controls lose 300 attack and defenses, and that's for each Thunder monster they control. That will build up since they're able to spam Thunder monsters from the hand pretty quickly. Now, you can shuffle one other Blitz card from your hand or face up on the field into the deck, and add a Thunder monster with a different name from the deck to your hand. So this is going to be the primary way they get Thunder King Ryo in many situations. And I'm all in caps for some reason. So this is going to be one of the major ways they get Thunder King Ryo, which prevents players from adding cards from their hand to their deck except by drawing them. Now, it's interesting because it's funny because a lot of people are considering using Droll and Lockbird in the main because they believe that a lot of these decks, and they're not wrong to say this, want to search a lot, or enough times to where the Droll would affect them for the most part. The problem with Droll and Lockbird in the main right now is that you still have to contend with Branded, and you still have to contend with Cool Tune. Now, Cool Tune didn't get necessarily buffed by any means with the new cards, but it's still a major threat in the game, and people are already anticipating it on their tier list to still be the top deck to play for, along with Branded. Now, this is dangerous because I actually think we're going to see Cool Tune drop because of these decks in particular, but with everyone focusing on Branded but specifically trying to deal with and siding certain cards in their extra deck or their side deck for Cool Tune, it's going to be really hard for them to find a way to have the balance to deal with Blitzclick as well as the Chaos and Angelic Key stuff, I think, for some decks. Branded's in a more unique position to where they naturally beat Cool Tune, so they can take their sideboard and actually shift it more towards dealing with this. So I think actually Branded's one of the best decks in this new format to play with, whether you're doing it pure or some type of variation, which I'm not sure which version would be the best way to play Branded yet. I suspect the Chaos variant will be the most easy to set up way to do so. However, it does prevent the use of certain cards along with the Chaos deck, and I think Harmonia is going to be one of the best cards to play with the Chaos deck for sure. But anyways, this trap is going to allow them to get Thunder King Ryo. So that's going to be really annoying for turn 1 plays. High Spirits is one of the best cards for Branded, and not being able to at least bait a hand trap with it to force interaction because they have a floodgate on you is really stupid. And they only need one in the deck. They just need you to like basically waste your interactions trying to get rid of it. When your opponent would special summon exactly one monster, you can send this face-up card to the graveyard as a cost and negate the special summon, and if you do destroy it. This is really good for them against your Fallen of the White Dragon. Right, it's really, really good against Fallen of the White Dragon. However, it doesn't stop the cost, so there is a little bit of a caveat there. with that. But that's still really good for them to be able to deal with it without having to worry about using their imperm, Veiler, or whatever on the effect as well. And still having a body on the board. Thing about the alternator is that it can also shuffle. I mean, besides adding the Thunder Monster with different, basically adding Thunder King Ryo, you can shuffle a Blitzclick card from your hand or face up on the field into the deck. So they have a little bit of a recursive engine there. It replaces itself, and it is a cost. So I think this is a really good card to try to get rid of. If you do get rid of this card by general means, by destroying it, then they can banish this card and add a Blitzclick spell or their field spell, Kowloon, Citadel of the Sky. So similarly to Branded, their spells and traps can provide additional value on or off the field. And this is one of the things that makes Branded fundamentally difficult to fully stop. And Blitzclick has access to that in a fashion with the Alternator. Okay? We also have the Blitzclick Breakaway. It allows you to activate one of multiple effects. You can place a Blitzclick continuous trap from your deck face up on your field. So it's another way to get something like the Alternator or the Return Stroke. Return one Thunder Monster you control to the hand, then target one card in the field, destroy it. This is a quick play, really, really good, and they're, depending on certain builds, they might be able to have non-engine that synergizes with the fact that they have these quick play spells. I'm not sure yet. But there is a targeting effect that's, interesting, and seems pretty good, actually, although they have to return a Thunder Monster. So it helps them dodge interruption while also disrupting you back. And that's going to be a major theme for a lot of these decks, being able to either prevent you from targeting them or dodging very easily. So it's going to be a premium on non-targeting removal options in this format and over targeting removal or disruption or negation. And that's despite the fact that Chaos has the ability to also screw with that as well. If a card is destroyed by your Blitzclick card's effect while this card's in the graveyard, you can add this card to your hand. So this can be on the same ilk in terms of in terms of grind game, that the Fallen and the Virtuous and the Drill Beam had before this, where they're able to activate, disrupt, and then have a method to get it back into their hand to have this continuous, slow, grindy pressure that will just whittle away at your resources. So now we have another deck to contend with that can do this. And this is going to be a problem for Branded because no other deck in the format beforehand, outside of potentially Draco Tail, when it was stronger, could really contend with our grind game. And now we're introducing already a almost anti-meta type deck that also possesses elements of that grind game, so I'm a little worried about that. Blitzclick Return Stroke basically says your Blitzclick monster can't be destroyed by opponent's card effect. So you're already seeing against Branded, they already have actions that they can take against the Fallen and the Virtuous, which so if they're already going to be able to stop our spells and traps, our monsters from being killed, then it might be more important to focus on banishment. Obviously, we have the Mirror Jade, but if you watch previous videos, I do think this is a good opportunity to use cards like Hyper Invoked Aeon in our deck. When an opponent activates a spell card or effect, you can return a Blitzclick monster you control the hand negated. So they do a really good job of having their monsters special summon from their hand to the field, activate it to get advantage, and then returning it back to the hand to disrupt you, and then bringing it back on the field to reuse that advantage. And that's the kind of thing that will just slowly destroy an opponent due to the overwhelming resource loop. And if you're wondering why Branded does so well in this format, it's not because of their combos, it's because of their resource loop. So Blitzclick, without even doing a lot of stuff, by comparison to these large combo decks, will just be able to outgrind and destroy them, potentially. Although I do think a secondary engine will probably have to take it, make it tier 1 status. Green Blitzclick, you can reveal this card in your hand, target one spell or trap on the field, destroy it. and then if you do, special summon a thunder monster from your hand. Any thunder monster. That's a little annoying, to be honest, and because they can just special summon the Thunder King Ryo kind of randomly. That's kind of annoying, guys. And there's other thunder monsters I probably haven't even brought up yet either. That will probably become more of an annoyance, to be honest. Like I guess they could get Thunder King, the Lightning Strike Kaiju too. They can get these Kaijus in their hand too, I believe. I don't know if they'll run those, because the alternator actually says you can just add a thunder monster with a different name from the deck to your hand. So they can search a floodgate. They can search for an answer to the dragon that devours a dogma if they so choose to build their deck like that. So I'm a little annoyed by that. Grain Blitzclick, going back to this, destroy spell or trap, then special summon it. So destroy a spell or trap if they do. So if you can find a way to remove it, make it dodge, then, which you probably won't most of the time, especially if they hit their own thing, which they typically want to do, hit their field spell essentially, and then get advantage off of that. They're going to special summon. You get a thunder monster. You special summon a thunder monster from your hand. Also, you cannot special summon an effect monster for the rest of this turn, except from the hand, which is not an issue for them, especially if you run variants to where, when available, you can do that line first to bait interaction, and then you go into Blitzclick, right? Like, the fact that it says for the rest of the turn could potentially be a problem against this, because they can run a wide variety of supplementary engines, like Ryzeal, for example. Since they don't really need the extra deck too much, they can use the extra deck to fill spots that will offer interaction if sent to the graveyard. For example, we know what the Ryzeal cards can do, sending extra deck monsters to the graveyard to negate cards on our side of the field, and they're also and they can create interesting interactions as well. That's something that you can consider. That the fortunate thing is there isn't a bridge, and I think that I am aware of, but there probably will be one discovered soon. Let's see here. If another card is destroyed by a card effect while this card's in the monster zone, you can add a Blitzclick spell or the field spell Kowloon, Citadel of the Sky, to your hand. So there's another deck that likes destroying its own stuff, likes to see its stuff get destroyed, whether it's on the opponent's field or themselves, and then they gain advantage off of that. So this is in a way similar to what Doomsday does, and Yubel likes to destroy their own stuff too. Even branded combos have incorporated destroying their own stuff to create additional advantage during the end phase. Let's move on. Emmy Blitzclick. If this card is added to the hand, except by drawing it, you can reveal it, target a card on the field, destroy it, and then if you do, especially summon a thunder monster from the hand. This is like Poplar with destruction. Imagine if Poplar had the ability to destroy a card on the field before it summons by just revealing it. You know what I mean? That's essentially what this is. Thank God you can't go into extra deck plays after with Emmy, but it also allows you to special summon a thunder monster from the hand. So you don't have to special. That's really something that we need to emphasize with Blitzclick. It's deceptively versatile, because there's a huge suite of thunder monsters that can probably be incorporated into this deck as non-engine options. But the only thing that that they can't really do is, obviously, they can't summon something like Colossus, right? They can't summon the Thunder Dragon Colossus, which is, honestly, they might still be able to find a way to do that before activating their Blitzclick cards. So don't hold your breath just yet. Anyways, if another card is destroyed by a card effect while this card's in the monster zone, you can add a Blitzclick trap from the deck to your hand. So the Blitzclick trap is annoying. I really want to emphasize that this card cannot resolve its effect on the field going first, because it's going to get Alternator, it's going to get Ryo, and it's going to lock you out of stuff. It's going to be annoying. I think you can't not let this resolve. Obviously, if it goes to the hand, it'll pop something, and that's really annoying, because if they do this going first, you don't really have a response to this. Your only option is to find a way to negate this on the board if it sees a card getting destroyed, and I think it does actually follow up on its own destruction effect, right? Like it comes onto the field, I mean, it pops something, and then if you do special summon this card, and I think it immediately, in another chain, will activate its effect to add a Blitzclick spell or trap from the deck to your hand. So yes, Droll will be a very good option against them, but if they go Emmy first, then maybe they can still, maybe they won't even get the alternator. Maybe they'll have to get their turn stroke instead if they see the Droll. They probably have lines around Droll a little bit. Let me see here. Where am I at? Okay, there we are. All right, so then we have the Crack Blitzclick. I actually like his design the most. It's a character design. When your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, you can, during their turn. So if it's on your turn, the Crack Blitzclick at least won't activate. You can reveal this card in your hand, destroy that monster. Insane. If you do special summon one Thunder monster from your hand, also you cannot special summon effect monsters, blah, blah, blah. If another card or cards destroyed by a card effect, while this card is in the monster zone, you can send one Blitzclick spell or trap from the deck to your hand, to your graveyard. It's going to be really important that these cards can see something get destroyed and then take advantage of it, especially when they have the ability to not be destroyed by card effects. So for Branded with Mirror Jade and Fallen and the Virtuous, if we don't get rid of Return Stroke, they're going to be able to take advantage. You're not going to... Essentially, they're nullifying the Mirror Jade's equalizing ability to revenge Raigeki in a sense. And so that's really annoying. And to be honest, the monsters... I'm just telling you guys right now, to me, the monsters aren't the scariest part of Blitzclick, although it is annoying that they can get Ryu and do a lot of searching. It's the spells and traps that really scare me. And it's the continuous spells and traps have to be dealt with essentially immediately, and preferably in response to them activating their once per turn effects. Or you're just gonna get beat down pretty easily and be kind of limited in what you're doing. And against Branded, one of the best ways to beat it is by using either a floodgate or an effect that puts a limitation or a limiter on your lines. Because Branded already, one of Branded's weaknesses, which I think we'll discuss in the Branded Despia for Dummies video series, is that Branded, while it has powerful lines, there is a disconnect between each tier of starters because of its limitations on what you can summon from the extra deck, or the inability to summon from the extra deck at all once you commit to that line. So it prevents. So one of the best ways to beat Branded is to put some type of limiting factor that makes it really hard to pivot to the other lines, because they naturally give the Branded player, limitations upon committing to those lines. So if you guys don't know what I mean by that, is if I go the White Dragon line, I'm not going to be able to go the Branded Fusion line. If I go the Branded Fusion line, I can't go to the White Dragon lines that go into the Equation of Dark Dragon, into the Champions of Swordsoul, which is objectively the strongest line, but it means I don't have access to the Branded Fusion line. There is no Branded build right now that allows me to pivot to all three major lines, which is the White Dragon line / Ecclesia Dark Dragon line, the Branded Fusion line, and the Dogmatica Nadir line. There is no deck that allows me to do all three, right? It's usually only two of the three. So that's one of the weaknesses. So if you find a way to force them into going one of those lines that limit them from going to the Branded Fusion line or the other, or the Nadir, or particularly the Branded Fusion line, then you've done a good job at fighting against Branded. And this deck naturally can do that without you having to think, to be honest. Blitzclick Speed a Stepped Ladder. Interesting. If this card is destroyed by your Blitzclick card's effect, so they want to destroy it, so maybe you destroying it in response to them trying to destroy it might be a way to counter them. 1 second. I gotta drink my coffee. You can target a Thunder monster from your graveyard, add to the hand. During the main phase, you can special summon one Thunder monster from your hand and destroy this card. Why is this a thing? So they have a monster and a spell way to summon like really annoying thunder monsters, and I haven't even looked at the full list of what potentially they could summon outside of Thunder King Ryo and perhaps like or add to their hand besides like a kaiju or a Thunder King Ryo. So um actually, you know, real talk, I actually think Blitzclick is actually a really sneaky pick that's gonna do really really well. Early on, I think people are going to be more or less stubborn on where it's placed and not give it like a tier 1 status because no one likes decks that kind of floodgate. And Cool Tune is objectively still really good, Brand's still really really good, and people are more used to that format. So there's going to be a little bit of shift in the next few weeks where people are going, oh crap, these decks are super annoying, we have to focus on beating them. And that's going to create, that might unironically create a sort of balance in the game. To where you can't prepare for everything, so certain decks get to breathe a little bit more, and instead of being targeted for 8 constantly with their extra decks. So like I expect a lot of decks to drop Sea Monster of Theseus, for example, because they're just not going to have the room in their extra decks to deal with that, and then have options to deal with this nonsense. Brandon in particular, I think is going to be the primary suspect of that. They don't even need Sea Monster anyway. It was just an extra security belt, a security extra layer of security to make sure they had the edge. Anyways, step ladder. If this card's destroyed by a Blitzclick card effect, you can add a Thunder Monster in your graveyard to your hand, so they can reuse their Ryo, they can reuse their other utility Thunder Monsters. So that's gonna be really really interesting. Is there a really good Thunder type hand trap you guys know about? Let me know. During the main phase, you can special summon one Thunder Monster from your hand, then destroy this card. So what the hell is that? Because you can basically special summon the monster you brought back from the graveyard in the previous turn, or maybe you discarded it for something, and then you special summon that monster, which probably will end up being a floodgate, like a Ryo. And then you destroy the card. So when it's destroyed by its own effect, you can add a target Thunder Monster you could add to your hand, most likely, unless I'm reading it wrong. If a card is destroyed by your Blitzclick's card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand. So as you can see already, there's going to be a big problem with dealing with this in terms of the grind game for a lot of decks. Brandon has a shot to compete with it because it already is known for having a great resource loop and a great grind game. But a lot of decks, if they're not specifically preparing their non-engine to slow this down, they're just going to lose automatically because they're just not going to be able to survive. They're not going to be able to survive. Like I think for a lot of decks, their best option from a sideboard or a non-engine standpoint, they're going to have to go double Droll and probably 3 Mistaken Arrest, which some people were doing already. That's probably something we're going to have to do as well, although Brandon can possibly get away with not running Mistaken Arrest at 3, but that's a risk that may not be worth taking right now. We might have to do that. And we might have to, if we run Bestials or some way of banishing from the graveyard, I think we should really only reserve it for taking care of the Ryo. We just don't want them having access to. Once it goes to the graveyard, we need to banish this shit and not let them ever have access to it again, because they're just gonna put it back in our hand. One second, please. Okay. That was from my one of my clients. All right, so let's see, Surge Blitzclick. Actually, I like her design too. She's really neat. Low key, I'm somewhat interested in actually playing Blitzclick in the new format to learn it, but also I think it's a sneaky pick. Well, it shouldn't be sneaky at all, actually. I might be capping about that. You can reveal this card in your hand and target a monster on the field, destroy, and if you do, special summon a Thunder Monster from your hand. Also, you cannot special summon effect monsters for the rest of the turn except from their hand, whatever. They allow them to have that effect. If another card is destroyed by card effect while this card is in the monster zone, you can add a Blitzclick monster from the deck to your hand. So you can see how they get spells, they get traps, they get monsters. So yeah, we definitely want to definitely gonna have to readjust my deck to main the 2 Drolls. We're gonna have the main 2 Drolls, and we're probably gonna have to find a way to get 3 copies of Mistaken Arrest from tcgplayer.com, which if you use my link in the description, you'll be able to get access to this card while also supporting the channel. It doesn't cost you anything extra or anything like that to just simply use the link, get your cards, and then be on your way. But it does help out a lot. So even if you just click on it and get nothing, that would be greatly appreciated. But yeah, if another card is destroyed by a card effect while this card is in the monster zone, you can add a Blitzkick monster from the deck to your hand. So pretty straightforward. 1800 attack, and this will probably be stronger than that. I think it can get to 2300 with the continuous trap, right? No. Your opponents lose 300 attack and defense, and I believe one of these, yeah, they gain 500, and your opponents and monsters lose 300. So gonna be crazy. Whiska. Whiska Blitzkrieg. This is Old Man River over here. If a card is destroyed by your Blitzkrieg card effect this turn, you can reveal this card in your hand, special summon up to 3 Thunder monsters from your hand, and then you can destroy that many cards on the field. This is the card that's really going to be very annoying. And as you can notice, this doesn't... I think they have some turn 0 capabilities as well. Right? If a card was destroyed by your Blitzkrieg cards effect this turn, you can reveal this card in your hand, especially summon up to 3 Thunder monsters from your hand, destroy that many cards on the field. That's fine. Quick effect. You can return 1 other Thunder monster you control to the hand. When a monster effect is activated, negate the activation and destroy it. This card is really dumb. This is a really good card. Honestly. And it's not, there's no during the main phase or during your opponent's main phase. It's just, you don't know. Yeah. You think Konami might ban Ryo before release? I somehow doubt that. They probably should. Even without it, Blitzkick's gonna be really good. But they really should. Maybe they should ban it. Maybe you have a point. Yeah, this is gonna be a very interesting deck. Here's a field spell here. Kowloon, Citadel of the Sky. It lowers your opponent's. It increases your monsters that were special summon or normal summon from the hand by 500 attack and defense. I also want you to know that that full loss. Another thing about this format, full loss ain't gonna do shit. Full loss is probably gonna be really annoying to figure out how we're gonna run because Blitzkick doesn't give a damn about that card, and Chaos can play in a way where it doesn't either, or very little. This might actually make Perulia a must at 3 in the side at least. So this is going to be a very interesting reconstruction of our sideboard here. But during your main phase, you can special summon 1 Mech Beast token to your opponent's field, and if you do, add 1 Blitzkrieg monster from your deck to your hand. And this is all going to be at max at 3, so this is going to be a really hard card to try to like pop and get rid of. But you definitely want to try to destroy it when it activates its effect, so at least it doesn't resolve. During your main phase, yeah, we did that already. Okay. If a card is destroyed by your Blitzkrieg card's effect while this card is in your graveyard, except during the damage step, you can add this card to your hand. So let's look at this. Let's say, for example, they bring out the Kowloon, right? And I want to destroy it with like a Ghost Ogre or something. Right? So I use my monster effect. I try to pop it in response to their Citadel, right? So let me see here. I thought they had one here. Looking for it. Okay, if your opponent activates... So this one is if your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, you can reveal it, destroy the monster, and if you do, okay, so there's nothing about activating a monster from the hand or popping a card on the field immediately. Yeah, so the effects where they reveal at least are not quick effects. So that helps out a lot. So that gives you an opportunity to pop the Kowloon with the I want to double check that real quick. Let's see. Yeah. So what they would do is really easy. What they would do before they play the field spell, they just make sure they have a monster on the hand, search for breakaway, and then they go get the Citadel. Or or if they have breakaway already, they can use Citadel. They can protect the Citadel if I try to pop it or get rid of it with a banishment effect or a destruction effect of my own, thinking that it's going to help out, then they can respond with breakaway or the Fallen and the Virtuous. By the way, guys, Fallen and Virtuous is going to be everywhere. It's already everywhere. Blitzkrieg's definitely going to run it because they can pop their own stuff and get some advantage off of it in certain situations. It's just a great engine to use in particular. So definitely make sure you pay attention to that. Another thing that I think I just thought of an idea, like a lot of things that people can do with the White Dragon engine. It's going into Fallen of the White Dragon, getting your Ecclesia, and going to a level 8 Synchro. I think you maybe might want to consider. Actually, I'll talk about it I'll talk about it when we get to our deck. I'll talk about it at that point because I think it actually might be relevant in the new format. All right, so that's the Blitzkrieg cards. Let's talk about some of the Chaos cards here. We have the Mind Shuffle is going to be the biggest one. The biggest card is going to be Mind Shuffle for sure. During either player's turn, you can add a monster that mentions Light or Darkness from the deck to your hand, then discard a card. So very much a card, a lot of people are talking about Droll. A lot of people are talking about he's taking a rest for this reason. When your opponent activates a card or effect, you can return a level 7 or higher monster you control the hand and special summon a monster with a different name from the hand that mentions Light and Darkness. Ritual of Light and Darkness while ignoring the summoning conditions. So the problem with this card, this is going to be a really broken loop that does exist right now with Mind Shuffle. It's a combination of Mind Shuffle and Fedrala's Harmonia. Harmonia is level 7 monster, so it fits the conditions of bouncing it back to the hand to special summon one of your ritual monsters, which would be Black Chaos or the or BLS. And so they have effects on summon, I believe. They banish, I believe, when if this card special summon, you can target a card your opponent controls, banish it. So there's a loop where they can banish with these cards and then return them to the hand for another banish, or they can use Harmonia, destroy something on the field in response to what you're doing, and then bounce it back to bring out Black Chaos or the BLS, banish another card, and then they just replay the loop over and over again. And that's going to be effing annoying. Just so you guys are aware. I don't know why I did that. So we're not going to have fun if we let that pop off. Okay? Let me go back and go to the deck list here. All right, so yeah, Mind Shuffle is going to be the crux of what this deck wants to do. You cannot let this stay on the board. Now, if I pop it with the Fallen Virtuous, is it gone forever? Let's see. I don't see anything in the card that says they can return to the hand, but I believe there are cards that will allow them to reuse this over and over again from the graveyard. So let's see what happens here. We're going to go to the Skull Archfiend of Chaos. Yeah. Mind Shuffle is generic, yeah. Skull Archfiend of Chaos. If this card's in your hand or graveyard, you can target 3 cards, other cards in the graveyards and or banishment. Place them to the bottom of the deck in any order if you do special summon this card. Notice how this doesn't say 3 cards in your graveyard. This is very threatening to Branded because obviously we want our graveyard as an additional resource, and if one of our win conditions is the Dragon that Devours a Dogma presenting as a towers with Ecclesia in the field or graveyard, they have a way from the graveyard to remove our fusion monsters, remove our Ecclesia monsters, so our Dogma becomes vulnerable, and get a free 2,500 body. This is a really, really good card. As long as one of the cards mentions the Ritual of Light and Darkness. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can send a ritual spell from your hand or deck to the graveyard to add a ritual monster mentioned on that card from the deck to your hand. Guys, can you guys just do you guys know any really good ritual monsters, or do you guys know any good cards that might work with this? Does anyone have any idea whatsoever? Huh? Ritual monster mentioned on that card? Interesting. I'm just gonna think of one. Let me think. Oh, yeah. Great. Yeah, this is annoying. Very annoying. All right. So this is gonna be really bad. This will be the best version of Mitsurugi in a long time, and they haven't even gotten their full support yet. If you're a Mitsurugi player, you're doing backflips. Because this should work very seamlessly into what you want to do. So, I can set up Archfiend of Chaos. You can actually do a branded Mitsurugi Chaos variant, where you can make something like Grand Guignol if you need access to Skull Archfiend of Chaos in the graveyard, and dump this from the deck to the graveyard, and essentially bridge into Mitsurugi in that fashion. So that's kind of crazy, isn't it? Hungry Burger Someone in the chat said, okay, guys. Okay, guys. All right. That's funny. This is a great card, man. This is a great card. Honestly. Now, here's the main ritual monster, Ritual of Light and Darkness, okay? So this will be used to ritual summon the Black Chaos, or BLS, Soldier of Light and Darkness, right? So you must also tribute monsters from your hand or field, and or banish monsters from your graveyard. You have got to be kidding me. So this is really insane. There's some really good spell cards coming out for these decks that I just want to be able to stop and negate potentially. The problem is Brand doesn't really normally offer negates for spells, except for Retribution. But for the ones that don't special summon, what do we do? Anyways, so if this card is in your graveyard, you can add both it and one other card that mentions Ritual of Light and Darkness from your graveyard to your hand. So we really have to focus on Dogma Dragon, getting rid of these cards from the graveyard, putting them back in the deck, so they don't get to recur them over and over again. Blitzclick also can do that very easily, returning spell cards, returning monsters back to their hand from the graveyard when certain conditions are met. And Chaos can do that as well. Grifo, okay. Little cute Karibo trying to be a demon is crazy. So this is as a quick effect, you can discard this card and either negate battle damage, which is actually crazy that they gave it that, in addition to, you know, it's basically buff Karibo. There's no reason to run regular Karibo, actually. Well, there was never one before, but I'm just saying. Set one quick play, spell or trap. Wait. Set one quick play spell or trap that mentions Ritual of Light and Darkness from your deck. It can be activated this turn. Okay. So, this is probably a 3 of that gives you access to the 1 of Mind Shuffle. Right? And, that's already really good. For the ritual summon of exactly one level 8 ritual monster with a card effect that requires the use of monsters, this can be used as the entire tribute. So this is a very versatile card. Now you might be thinking, oh, I'll Ash Blossom the Grifo. No. Your goal is to remove... Your best bet to play against Chaos is you're going to want them to get the Mind Shuffle on the board, and then on the activation of their effect, you get rid of it. That way they don't find another way of getting it and then playing it again, okay? So either I'm banishing this upon activation of their effect somehow, or I'm using something like Ghost Ogre or some other ability to get rid of it as soon as possible. Right? If you Ash Blossom this, if you Ash Blossom Garifo, you probably fell into a trap, unfortunately. You might not have a choice, though. Chaos the Dark Chaos Magician. Very awesome. I love the card art. It's one of my favorite cards from the Yu-Gi-Oh anime series, and they buffed it, which I really like. And I also kind of want to play Chaos because of this card. It's unaffected by your opponent's activated effects unless they target. My guy, this is a anti-Mirror Jade card. So if I bring this out against an opposing Branded player on while their Mirror Jade's out, I can bring this out and banish their Mirror Jade. Because if this card is special summoned once per turn, if this card is special summoned, I can, well, hold on a second. It can add a spell from the graveyard to my hand. So it has recursion. Guys, it's generic, okay? So, like, these decks also run the Fallen and Virtuous. Just so you're clear. They should probably also run the Fallen and Virtuous. They should also run the Mitsurugi cards. They can do that, put the cards back in their hand. The resource engines of these decks are going to be so absurd. It's going to invalidate a lot of decks just off of grind game alone, I think. You can add one spell card from the graveyard to your hand. You can target one card your opponent controls, banish it. Imagine using Triple Tactics Talent and then using Chaos, the Chaos Magician to put it back in your hand to use it on a later turn. Okay? Not cool. Target a card my opponent controls, banish it face down. Not even a monster, just target a card. Now it does target, which is good. That means we can dodge it. But that means our Fallen Virtuous or Cartesia may have to be used earlier than expected. So all about if you can force interactions at a weird timing or when they don't normally want to do it, that's still a win to me. This is a very powerful card. Very, very powerful card. I love it, but I also hate it. All right. Black Chaos, the ultimate magical swordsman. It's a spellcaster, though. You can special summon this. You have to special summon this by shuffling a ritual monster, which is either a spellcaster or a warrior, from your hand or graveyard into the deck. Okay. So you can discard. So you can discard this card and place a continuous trap that mentions. So look. So they have Black Chaos that can search for Mind Shuffle. Okay. They have Grifo that can search for Mind Shuffle. And you can place a continuous spell trap that mentions Ritual of Light and Darkness from your deck or graveyard face up on the field. So as you can see, they're going to be able to find a way to constantly bring this back from the graveyard. So you have to have banishment options if you want that problem to be gone more or less permanently. It's also unaffected by your opponent's activated effects while you have a ritual spell in the graveyard. Now, it's still not stronger than Dogma Dragon, but it's 3,000 attack, essentially at towers, because you're going to run ritual spells. You're going to run its own ritual spell, and you're probably going to run a supplementary ritual engine alongside with it, most likely Mitsurugi. So you can discard this card and probably put it back in your hand. I would not be surprised if that was the case. Once per turn, you can banish 2 cards your opponent controls. Banish 2 cards? I don't see it saying targeting. So that's going to be an issue. That's crazy. It's going to be a really good deck. It's going to be really, really good. Black Luster Soldier of Light and Darkness cannot be destroyed by battle. So we have to kill with like spells and traps, right? Can we target it at least? Unaffected by your opponent's activated effects unless they target. So we have to use a Fallen and Virtuous or something like that if you're branded. If this card is special summoned, you can target one card your opponent controls and banish it. When this card destroys a monster by battle, it becomes 4,500 essentially, and it can attack again. That's really dumb. So this deck, Chaos, if you're not reading this, if you're not understanding this, is naturally good against branded. It can avoid non-targeting effects. It has recursion and grind games similar to Branded. It can incorporate Branded and Mitsurugi if it wants to add even more layers to what it wants to do, which is really crazy because of its synergy with Spellcasters, Darks, and Lights. And if you do have a way of targeting it, they have Chaos Hats, which they can easily search for. When your opponent activates a monster effect or a normal spell or trap card, you can choose 3 spell traps with different names from each other from your deck, and 1 monster in your main monster zone that mentions Ritual Light and Darkness. Special summon the chosen spells or traps in face down defense position as normal monsters that are level 8. That means they can be used for the tribute of the Ritual of Light and Darkness. Their names become Chaos Hats. They also are considered of normal monsters too. Face down defense position as normal monsters. Their names become face down even while face down. Set the chosen monster, shuffle them on the field. Your opponent's activated effect becomes destroy 1 face down defense position monster your opponent controls. Now it's 3 different names. Now, one card in particular that's really, really scary in this scenario, I'm going to show it to you. It's Waking the Dragon. They may run this. And the reason why they may run this is for a really dumb reason. So, if you happen to destroy this card while it's set, they get to special summon a monster from their deck or extra deck. And one of the most unfair monsters I've seen is the Naturia Exterio. If you don't know what this does, it essentially says when your opponent activates a spell or a trap, you say no. Negate the activation and destroy it by banishing a card in their graveyard as cost. So it's a permanent spell or trap negate. There's no once per turn, by the way, because this is an old card. Negate the activation if you do destroy the card. The card must, this card must be face up on the field to activate and resolve. So, my problem with that is, if you're thinking, okay, they'll activate the effect and then I'll pop it with something in response. I don't see anything that says once per chain, right? That's not really something you saw a lot back in the day. So they're going to be able to go negate, negate, negate in the same chain. Unless I'm reading that wrong, please God, someone tell me I'm reading it wrong. So if they go Chaos Hats and you hit Waking the Dragon, you've royally screwed yourself. That's gonna be the scariest interaction off of Chaos Hats I can think of right now. Okay. Next card we have is Mystical Celtic Sage. If you summon this card, you can activate these effects. You can only special summon from the extra deck once for the rest of this turn after you do this. Also reveal your entire hand. And if there is a card that mentions Ritual of Light and Darkness in it, you draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards. So they have a walking graceful charity just for the deck. Are you kidding me? I saw this card and I lost my mind. That's really insane. If you're doing the Mitsurugi version, this limitation means nothing to you. Even the branded version can play around this, right? Because you do your branded stuff first, bait interaction, all that cool stuff, and then you go into the Mitsurugi stuff. I mean, the chaos, right? So, yeah, not cool. I can't wait to see people try to cook with a chaos branded build. I think that might be the best version of the chaos build. Unless there's a Mitsurugi variant, unless they do Mitsurugi, which is also going to be really, really good. It's going to be hard to keep stuff on the field, guys. It's going to be hard to keep stuff on the field. Mystic Box of Chaos is interesting. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets another card you control, oh, great. So the Fallen Virtuous, right? So this card says, when you activate the Fallen and the Virtuous, return one of those cards you control to the hand. And if you do, destroy 1 card on the field. And then if you do that, you can special summon a monster that mentions Ritual of Light and Darkness from your hand, other than the one you returned, ignoring its summoning condition. So there's an alternate way of basically doing what this does, in a sense, to get your big bad monsters out. while also dodging target negation. So they have a method to interrupt or prevent non-targeted removal. And then when you resort to the targeted removal, they have an answer against that. And this is all searchable because it mentions Ritual of Light and Darkness. Do you see the problem here? Do you see the issue here? Brand is gonna get screwed up if you're not ready for this. There's also some other cards here from the OCG that I thought was really cool. I think this is still Detonating Karibo is still available, but I don't know if this is available yet. Someone can confirm. But Multiplying Karibo is a tech option I saw in the deck as well. I mean, in a certain build. I think it was I forget the channel, but I think I have it up in one of my tabs. But Multiplying Karibo might be a card as well. When your opponent activates a monster effect or an opponent monster declares an attack, you can special summon this card from your hand. It basically simulates what Karibo did to Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon during the first major dueling arc for Yu-Gi-Oh! The Pegasus arc. Right? You special summon this card from your hand when your opponent activates a monster effect or declares an attack. And then when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field or during damage calculation when your opponent's monster attacks, you can add to your hand or special summon a 1 Dark Magician or a monster with 300 attack, 200 defense from the deck or graveyard, then change that opponent's monster's attack to 0. So it basically simulates what Yugi did with the Wall of Karibos, which was super funny when I first saw it. It's going to go summon this card, right? Detonating Karibo. If a Karibo monster is on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand. When your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, you can equip this card you control to that opponent's monster as an equip spell with the following effect. The equipped monster's effects are negated. Right? So if they activate a monster effect, you can basically just negate it entirely. And with the other Karibo, they can make the attack 0. And if I'm reading this right, it's not until the end of the turn. The monster's attack is permanently 0. Fajral's Harmonia is here because I brought it up before as a great way to synergize with the Mind Shuffle mechanic. Mind Shuffle allows you, once again, to return a level 7 or higher monster to your hand and then bring out one of your big bad Chaos Ritual monsters. It says level 7, not level 8, which is really weird it says that because now Harmonia can essentially double up and triple up on its effect. It's going to be a recurring form of interruption for them, and that's the kind of interruption that really defines a format. All right? It's like looping Mirror Jade, but in a sense easier. So I'm going to be able to use Harmonia on Harmonia. By the way, this is turn 0. Grifo can discard itself to set Mind Shuffle on my opponent's turn 0. Okay? Then when my opponent activates a monster effect, I can use the effect of Harmonia to special summon it onto the field and interrupt them again. Then I can use Mind Shuffle to return that Harmonia back to my hand to special summon from my hand, the Black Chaos, the Dark Chaos Magician, one of those guys. So this has turn 0 plays as well, potentially, which is why you want to run 3 of this. This is going to be absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. It looks like you can sort of play around the banish too by reducing the number of cards you have to 1 before it resolves. What are you talking about? Brand Despia, how do we play against Mixuzia Gordion? Because if Hyper Invoked Aeon is basically Cashier Unicorn on steroids. It's gonna be really difficult. You're gonna have to remove it on activation. You're gonna have to remove the Mixuzia before resolution because it needs to be on the field on resolution to diffuse into it. Diffuse into Hyper Invoked Aeon. Let's talk a little bit about the Angelic cards. I guess we'll start with the. I'm gonna do with the traps first in the spell, and then we'll talk about this. And as you can see here, I think this one is gonna be annoying too. Angelic Key Disturbance, I believe that is the card that they probably just want to discard. Let me just double check here. Give control of one Angelic Key monster you control to your opponent. Then if your opponent controls a face-up card or cards in its adjacent spell or trap card zones. Wait, adjacent monster zones. Or spell trap zones, their effects are negated. Adjacent. Whoa, 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 whoa. You give them one of your Angelic Key cards. And then anything, if they control a face-up card adjacent to it in any of the adjacent zones, all of their effects are negated permanently. That's crazy. And it says give control of one Angelic Key monster you control to your opponent. So if they have multiple monsters, you have to pop both of them or all of them, or you'll still get screwed. Absolutely scary. And this is a good example of a card that forces interactions that are inefficient. Because if this happens to me and my opponent has two Angelic Key monsters to give to me, then I have to be like, okay, I have to pop both now, or I'm in trouble. And they can't be targeting because I think they have effects to prevent that too. Let me just go ahead and I'll have to double check that. But you can banish this card from your graveyard, add one Angelic Key spell or trap from the deck to your hand. You can only use each effect of Angelic Key Disturbance once per turn. So they can use this on-field effect and then banish it to replace itself, essentially. Which is a sign of a really great trap. Angelic Key opening to E4. Oh my god, this card. If your opponent goes first, you can also activate this card from your hand during the standby phase of your first turn. So is this a 3 of? Place, not search. Place. So it's not, you can't ash this. You can't droll this. Place one Angelic Key field spell from your hand, deck, or graveyard face up on the field. And if you do, special summon one level 2 or 7 Angelic Key monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone. And if you do that, place one Angelic Key monster from your extra deck in your spell or trap card zone, as a face-up continuous spell. Until the next turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon from the extra deck except for synchro monsters. Gee, what a great limitation that has. So so now you're seeing here the all three of these decks have turn 0 capabilities, which means they're great going second. They're good enough going second that that this is gonna be a problem. It's one of the cool things about it, but it's also one of the scariest things about it, especially Angelic Key, because they like the floodgate, I think, you'll see what I mean. Anyways, Angelic Key problem. Once per turn, you can discard one spell or trap. So basically, the disturbance, right? Special summon one level 2 Angelic Key monster from your extra deck. And if you do, place one Angelic Key monster from your extra deck into your spell or trap card zone as a continuous spell. If a face-up Angelic Key monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can return one Angelic Key monster card you own from your spell or trap card zone to the extra deck. Then you can special summon it. I wonder why it didn't say just special summon it. But I guess this makes it a little bit more vulnerable to Fool Loss because you're special summoning from the extra deck, right? So that can sort of help a little bit. But this is basically the card that starts everything for them, right? This card cannot stay on the board, okay? This is once per turn. It's like the longer this stays out, the more the things get crazy. And for what I've seen from combos, it doesn't take that much time for it to really snowball the board once this is on the field. This is truly a problem, no pun intended. And it special summons a level 2 Angelic Key monster, so it's pretty much, it leads right into the enlisted. You can target opponent's card monster in this card's adjacent column and banish it. And then change control of this card by moving it to one of your main monster zones in this card's adjacent columns. Now, once the control switches, it has another effect that forces your opponent to activate it. There is no, I decide not to activate it, which actually opens up other things as well. You return this card to the extra deck, so it goes back to your extra deck. And then the owner of the card, which is you, who gave it to the opponent, special summons an angelic key monster from the extra deck. So it kills a card, basically. Yeah, it kills a monster, basically, by banishment. Already really good. Then it replaces itself and turns it into something else. It replaces it and turns it into another monster, while also putting your opponent in a position to where they've now allowed you to activate Thrust and Triple Tactics Talent, for example. Which I think if you're playing an Angelic Key deck, you should run Thrust and Talent, to be completely honest. That seems really good to me. Now, what other monsters are you trying to get out with this, right? Let's look at the... Oh, man. Let's look at the level 10. So, Angeliki Shatranga, I mean. Someone said the word... Someone said... I watched a video where they said Angeliki Shatranga. And I was like, that's funny you said it like that. But then he said, yeah, I'm going to say it like that because it has the word shat in it. And I'm like, you know what? Bet. That's totally fine. I might mimic that that pronunciation from now on, because this card is annoying as shat. Angeliki Shatranga. You can target one monster your opponent controls and banish it. Okay. Just do it. Nice. If this card is placed in the spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell, you can then add an Angeliki trap from the deck or graveyard to your hand. So it reuses resources. Great. While this card is treated as a continuous spell, and this is one of the more annoying floodgates that it presents, your opponent can attempt to activate up to 5 monster effects per turn. So it does what I've always thought Yu-Gi-Oh! Should probably do if they want to really hard limit the game or hard balance the game, which is force your opponent to only be able to activate 5 spells or 5 monster effects. This hurts more than you think, because it doesn't matter if the activation gets negated or not, right? So if they have Ash Blossom, counter traps, anything like that to negate the activation of key monster effects, this is really bad. This is really, really crazy, to be honest. And the thing with Angeliki that you're going to realize, because of how small the engine is, this can fit into a lot of decks. This can fit very well into a lot of versatile styles. So it's gonna take a few weeks to see what the best version of this is, because it's not gonna be pure. The same thing with Blitzclick, and probably not with Chaos, although I think that out of the 3 decks, Chaos is the most capable of going pure and being like immediately impactful in the meta, right? Shatranga should definitely probably add something like an additional synchro engine, right? For example, you can use the assault mode engine to create a huge board that also features the Angelikis. And that's just one example. I'm not even saying that's the best example. All right. Angeliki Despia. You can target one monster in another column, banish it. So they all have really good removal effects. If this card is placed in the spell or trap spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell, you can add an Angeliki spell. So the level 10 gets the trap, I believe, right? Trap, right? Yeah, so Shatranga gets the trap, Despia gets the spell. Now, while this card's in your spell or trap card zone, you take 500 every time you activate a card or effect, whether it gets negated or not. When it resolves. Only when it resolves. There will be combos where they are going to try to put 2 of these in the spell and trap card zone. So every time you play something, essentially, you're taking 1,000. So it limits your moves to like 8, right? And then some of those, if they're monster effects, are limited even further. Guys, this is not okay. It's not okay. All right? And they can run other things as well if they want to floodgate you. This isn't okay. Angelic Bastion, level 8 monster. You can target one other card in this card's column, banish it. So, although I think the other ones were all like an L shape, right? Kind of, they're kind of mimicking how you move in chess. This one is just straightforward. If this card is placed in spell or trap card zone as a continuous spell, you can place an Angelic Chaturanga from your extra deck to your spell trap card zone as a continuous spell. And I think there are other engines that can take advantage of the continuous spell nature of these cards as well if they want to be fancy. But typically, you want to keep these on the board. If this is a continuous spell, all other Angelic cards on the field cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects. You can target them, but they can't be destroyed. Which means, as long as Bastion's out, the only card that will get destroyed if you do a Lightning Storm or a Feather Duster will be just the Bastion. So if you want to deal with a huge board, a wide board of these cards, you're going to want non-destruction abilities. And we'll discuss that when we get to the deck list. Brother, why is it doing that? You forgot about Glitch, Clutch, Nullbringer. You're right, I did forget about that card. I also forgot about one other card too. I appreciate that. And I'll bring that up to what was what's the level 10 other monster? Ancients, I think it's called. Something of the Ancients, I forget. No, what was it called, guys? It's like a large light monster, level 10, I think, or something like that. There it is. Witness of the Ancient. We got to talk about Witness of the Ancient as well, and Nullbringer. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. And now we'll talk about the Witness of the Ancient. This card is also very insane in this deck. If you have a synchro monster in your field or graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. And when it's special summoned, you get to place 3 different synchro monsters with different names from your extra deck and or graveyard to your continuous spell trap card zones in your back row. So this jump starts the engine completely, and it is searchable. Okay? And this is something that the Fallen of the White Dragon engine is going to be known for in Angelic, because they're going to be able to instantly make a level 8 synchro, and then they're going to go into another level 8 synchro, which would be the Glitch Clutch Null Gainer. Glitch Clutch is generic level 8. When it's synchro summon, you can get a level 8 or higher monster with 0 attack from your deck to your hand. When I first saw that, I was like, oh, maybe Yubel can use this, right? I mean, they could, technically. But you can also target a monster with 0 attack in your graveyard, special summon it, but negate its effects. Also, it cannot be used as material for a fusion, synchro, exceeds, or link summon. You can tribute it for a monster. Probably a monster that floodgates, right? You can do that. But yeah, this is how you search for it. So you really only need 1 of this in the deck if you run, or maybe you probably still run 3 of these, but you definitely run I would consider running the Fallen of the White Dragon engine, because you still want to run cards like, I think every deck, all 3 of these decks, use the Fallen and Virtuous really well. And so having that Fallen of the White package, being able to go into Null Gainer is probably the best way of doing that, while also setting up a Fallen and Virtuous back row. So you would go ahead and get this, and then you would get multiples of these onto the back row. You probably did a bunch of other things before that as well, and that's really the whole point of of running these cards together. And it's going to be really, really scary, guys. If you're not ready to deal with back row on a massive scale and on a consistent scale, you're not going to have fun playing this format with your deck, okay? They have ways to bring back these cards from the graveyard really easily. So, and they have ways to avoid targeting and non-targeting abilities. And some of them have gain something if you destroy them, specifically if they're destroyed with the blitz click. So how are you going to deal with this? How you going to do this, right? Let's see if we can figure something out. Okay, so I'm gonna pull up a deck list. I'm gonna show you what I have right now and what I would probably suggest for changes. And this will be the conclusion of the video, I guess, for what I think we should prepare for and how we should prepare for it. So, for branded specifically, we're going to have to make some room for some non-targeting effects, additional non-targeting and targeting effects that can hit the back row. So, the number one option I'm thinking is, if you're running Ash Blossom, I would take that out completely and replace it with Ghost, Ogre, and Snow Rabbit. Potentially. I think that's probably the best option to deal with the continuous traps and the continuous spells and the field spells that will be presented in this format. Ghost, Ogre, and Snow Rabbit is probably going to be the best Ghost Sister along with Belle, but mostly I think Ogre might actually become the best one in this format. When a monster on the field activates its effect, or when a spell or trap that is already face up on the field activates its effect, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard to destroy this card on the field. In each of those scenarios, against the decks I just mentioned, you really want to reserve this for their continuous spells and traps, not really for their monsters. I have it at 2. Argument could be made to figure out a way to get 3 in there. Okay. Another thing I was thinking about with my back row will be with my my non-engine. I had the Fallen and the Virtuous. I have Super Polymerization. I'm starting to wonder how strong Crown and Droplet is in that kind of scenario, to be honest. Right? Because Crown is not going to be able to hit the Chaos monsters. We can't do non-targeting stuff against them. Right? So the question is, yeah, it's still valuable to protect your life points and prevent yourself from dying. But is it still a 3 of? Right? Or does this go to the side? That's a question I don't know yet. Now, I think against Chaos, that's a question to have. Against the other decks, it's probably fine. Although with chess, I don't think it does anything to them. They'll just burn you to death. Or floodgate you out of the game. So in the main deck, not much has changed. Because honestly, there's just not a lot of room for change. This is probably the first format since the Fallen Virtuous came out where I feel like there's actual, legitimate counterplay against the card. And that's good in a sense because everyone's playing that card. So if you play one of the new decks, you naturally have ways to play around or take advantage of the Fallen Virtuous. On the other hand, for pure branded, that's one of our primary ways of forms of non-engine, and we can get to it very easily. What's going to end up happening, and prepare for this, is that the Fallen Virtuous will probably be used more or less as a reborn, because the destruction effect will either not be good enough, or they'll just they'll just negate it, or prevent you from hitting the intended target. As you can see with Chaos, for example, and with Blitzclick, they have ways to just dodge and then destroy one of your own cards at the same time. So prepare to be more used to using the Fallen Virtuous for its reborn effect. And in order for that to be valuable, you have to set up your lines so that there's a really good card in the graveyard to take advantage of with the Fallen and the Virtuous, okay? Right? And your best target is probably going to be Mirror Jade spamming or Borlo Furious Dragon, right? Potentially. Or the Dragon Devours the Dogma to, continuously screw with their graveyard. Because I do believe Dogma becomes more important in this format. All 3 of those decks really love using their graveyard for recursion and grind game, and we need to cut that off as soon as possible. So spamming Dogma's effect and just interfering with their cards in the graveyard is going to be a very important part of all of those matchups. Okay. In this build, like I said, you don't see much difference here in this version of it. But I think there may be value in using Pot of Sloth, maybe. And the reason why is because this provides essentially the ability to sculpt your hand. The only issue with it is that it sucks going first, except during the case of when you're playing against decks like Blitzclick and Chess, because they can turn 0 you. And I think the same thing goes with Chaos. So if you're wondering why Pot of Sloth is going down in price, for example, it's because people aren't taking into account what the Chaos decks do. They have turn 0 capability to put cards on the board. And if Draco Tail gets buffed or gets returns, that the potential for them to do the same thing is also there. So definitely get yourself a few copies of these through tcgplayer.com. Branded probably only needs 1 copy though. So if you're trying to be on a budget, you probably only need 1 instead of, I wouldn't run 2. What I would do is, because I don't want to see, I don't want to draw into another copy. So I would have 1, and then the second copy could be something like a Triple Tactics Talent. Now, another card that people are really excited for is Farah. Farah is going to be amazing in this format. Thank God we only need to run 1 because we have access to the 3 champions of Sword Soul. And this is going to be really good offensively and defensively to allow us to use the Fallen and Virtuous to avoid some of those effects that will try to dodge this card. So if you have access to Farah, this gives you a way to not allow them to interrupt or respond to it. And that's going to be probably the most important things we have to figure out as branded. How many do we run of this? Is it worth running extra bricks in order to get access to this more consistently, right? I will say though, while it's a brick, quote unquote, it's one of the best bricks I've ever seen for branded. Right now, for this format, I would not run outside like the important bricks that you have to run, like Retribution, Fallen of Albaz. I would not go any further than what you're seeing on my screen right now. Springen's Kit. Some people are dropping Mercurier, so that's a kind of like a 50-50 depending on your build. Although, I really think Mercurier should be in your deck. Like, you're going to want to stop monster effects, my dude. So, Kit, Mercurier, Sword Soul, and Farah. I don't think you should be thinking about any other bricks right now besides those cards. Alright? And Farah increases the power of your bricks. Branded already is a deck that's really good with bricks. They function very well. That's why you see a higher than normal amount in many builds, and it doesn't seem to matter. Because they have multiple usage in multiple areas. But I don't feel like other bricks are worth it right now. Like, I know we're running Forbidden Crown, so like Google, it's a good option in a vacuum. The fact is that the Google doesn't do anything in the hand. It doesn't do anything valuable in the graveyard. I'd rather that be a Farah, to be honest. Farah is way more powerful than that right now. Golden Sword Soul is really, really good right now. It's probably the best time to run it because of the 3 champions. And being able to bring out multiple synchros on your turn is going to be really awesome. Going to be really awesome for you. In fact, this may be a good time to even consider a 3rd synchro option. And the 3rd option, I was going to mention this later, but I'm going to mention it now. The best, I think not the best, but one synchro monster I think that you guys are really going to want to consider is Stardust Dragon. There's going to be a lot of destruction effects, and there's going to be a lot of effects that are going to try to disrupt you by dodging in destruction. Perhaps Stardust Dragon should be a thing. Against magical hats, I mean the Chaos hats, I think that works against Chaos hats as well. Stardust Dragon might be a sneaky pick, to be honest with you guys, to run as a 3rd synchro outside of Ecclesia and the Golden Sword Soul. And outside of what Blitzclick does, Blitzclick wants to destroy things to do what it wants to do. So Stardust Dragon is a great counter to their opening destruction plays. So because they want to pop their own things, you say no, Stardust Dragon negates it, right? And then you negate the activation, destroy it. So you destroy it by your effect, not through their Blitzclick effects, right? Chaos Hats, I believe, also works in this fashion. It turns your other effects into destroy this face-down card instead, and then you can say Stardust Dragon negated as a result. And then everyone's running the Fallen Virtuous, okay? So this is probably a card that you should consider. It's really cheap. You can get it really cheap on tcgplayer.com. All right. Now, for the non-engine, I think there is a I see people running, trying to add lava golems and Santa Claus in their deck. This makes sense because a lot of the cards are going to be very hard to deal with targeting and not, with in terms of targeting it or non-targeting it, like the chaos decks. The problem is, they do tribute them. Well, I don't think that's actually a problem. It does tribute them. I don't think there's anything wrong with tributing them though, so I think that's fine. So you might want to run a copy or two of Golem and or Santa Claus, and the good thing about them is they synergize with High Spirits. So you could by the way, this solidifies in the current format. This guarantees that Quiritis is your number one option now. It was already the number one option before for defensive reasons, but now with Chaos Origins, there's an added level of utility to the Quiritis as a High Spirits target if you do intend to run Golem and Santa Claus. Also, if you're running a Chaos branded build, Quiritis also becomes available as a High Spirits target because you do run Fiends. There's that. Droll is a must. There is no not running Droll in the main or side. If you have a way to put Droll in your main, and maybe you run 45, maybe you run a little bit bigger build, or maybe you don't want to run Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit in the main, you'd rather run it in the side, then this is actually a better option because at least with the Droll, it synergizes with High Spirits and can counter Fool Loss, right? So that actually is probably a better option for the first week or so, just to see how things go with the format and see how things go. This is probably a better decision than running the Ghost Ogre in the main. But I do think Game 2, Game 3, we probably want to max out on the Ghost Ogre, to be honest with you. I genuinely don't like Ash Blossom nearly as much anymore. I almost want to take it out completely, to be completely honest with you, and then max out on Ghost Ogre and max out on Perulia. I almost want to do that, right? I almost want to do that. So we'll see. Because I don't have room for another card that I think people should consider running, which is Mistaken Arrest. Right? Mistaken Arrest is another version of Droll, in a sense. Until the end of the next turn after this card resolves, neither player can add cards from the deck to their hand except by drawing them. This is going to be a major kill switch for a lot of these decks. They'd search a lot. And Branded can kind of play around it. So it's not the worst thing for you, right? Obviously, High Spirits will be offline, right? So you want to kind of do this after you've already set up what you want to set up with your searches. So 2 to 3 copies of Mistaken Arrest. If you can fit 3, I would absolutely do so. Perulia is going to be a better card in this format for sure because of the Chaos deck and because of Blitzclick summoning from the hand a lot. You'll punish Blitzclick a lot with this Perulia. So you might want to consider 2 or 3 copies of this as well. The spells, mean that the spells that we have in this format, the traps that we have in this format, means Diabels will be a more important card for you in the side, right? You know, they have to set the in most cases they have to set the Mind Shuffle before activating it. But with Diabels, they can't even do that once it's on the board. So that's a really good card for you to run. And a lot of their most important ways of dealing with your interruption will be the Chaos Hats, will be the spell cards, the trap cards. They require those cards to pop off in order to really set up their control and their grind game. So Diabels will be a number 1 target in your side deck no matter what. There's just no way of going around it. It might be a must play. Depending on how heavy the format goes, this might go into the main. But I'm gonna keep it in the side for now. You see Ablonatus in the sideboard. I think this will probably be the format where we have to get rid of it, put it in the side. I still like it to have it available against Branded, although it doesn't come up nearly as much because Branded knows how to not put a lot of dragons on the board without doing something about it first. Cool Tune with the Zaylin, like, yeah, sure, that's great. That's a good reason by itself to want to run it. I'll be honest with you guys. If Alba Inez never has existed, Brandit would still be okay. Would be fine against Cool Tune. And we need this card. We need that card space to do something with the spells and traps that are going to be annoying us in this format. So I replaced that with something else. All right? We have the Duster. We have the Lightning Storm. But they have cards. There are cards that will not allow this to be the most efficient option. So we can still have it there. And in some cases, it'll be an excellent card for us. But there are ways they can prevent it from being the most efficient, especially with the Angelic Key. Okay? At least you'll force them to do something about it, I guess. By the way, before we go any further, I totally forgot about this. There's also another card I wanted to mention alongside the Pharah that people are not talking about. And I'm really concerned about that because I think this actually deserves a mention as the potential card for us to run in the main or even in the side because of the 3 champions of Sword Soul. It's a card that that gives us that we can run at 1, and it gives us a unique form of disruption we did not have before. So let me go ahead and get that out. Allow me to introduce you to Silent Magician. Silent Magician is a light spellcaster with 1,000 attack and 1,000 defense, which means it can be searched by the 3 champions of Sword Soul. And you can special summon it from your hand by tributing a spellcaster monster. Very, very easy for Branded to do. Especially if you tribute a monster that mentions Fallen Albaz, because you can use your Ecclesia to simply bring it back later. Or use your Fallen Virtuous to resurrect that same card during the end phase. It gains 500 attack for each spell in your hand, and because we always add cards back to our hand with the effects of Ecclesia, Cartesia, High Spirits, and our branded end phase effects from our fusion monsters, this will be a decent attack monster. But the most important thing is, once per turn when a spell is activated, quick effect, you can negate the activation. It doesn't destroy, but it does negate the activation. So you can use this against the activation of continuous spells and traps or field spells, but you can't use this against the effect of a card already on the field that's already flipped face up, right? So you have to hit it on the activation. I think this deserves a mention because we will need a card. We will need additional resources to deal with continuous spells and traps on the field on their activation. This is not as potent against, this will not be a thing you use against the Angelic Key continuous spells because they're continuous effects. This is more for like the field spell and other important spells and traps that people like to run. I think the Fallen Virtuous Branded Fusion, for example, is going to be a really good option. Like Fallen Virtuous is probably going to be the main one I'm thinking of. And then, there's going to be a lot of chaos and ritual spells that are going to need an additional form of negation. And once we use the effect, we can get rid of it and turn it into a monster, okay? Going back to the sideboard, I think Evenly Matched is going to be back in business. Banishing cards face down so they only have 1 is going to be huge because we are not the ones that are banishing them. Our opponent is the ones that's banishing them. So it kind of it goes around the ability. It goes around certain effects that will not allow us to affect them without targeting them, because we're not affecting them we're affecting the player when we use Evenly Matched. So our opponent will banish cards face down, not us. So this gets over the Black Chaos. This gets over the Black Luster Soldier. So if you can find a way to activate the Evenly Matched, but at the same time also maybe get rid of the Evenly Matched in some fashion. Maybe you can get rid of their whole board. That's possible. Looks like I gotta fix this again. But even if they keep one thing on the board, that's so much easier for you to deal with, man. So I think that's something you need to consider. Like I said, I'm probably dropping the Ash Blossom, to be honest. I'm replacing it with the Ghost Ogre. Ash Blossom doesn't do anything for Branded nearly as much anymore. And these spell and trap cards are very, very annoying, in my personal opinion. Not that Ash Blossom's the worst thing in the world. Like if I saw a Branded deck running Ash Blossom, I might be like, okay, sure. I don't think it's worth ripping them a new one over it. But I think at this point, Ash Blossom has effectively been phased out of the meta in terms of a high impact hand trap to a low impact hand trap. Let me see here. Mistaken Arrest. And I guess I'm running them at 2 instead of 3 just to have more room for a few other cards, right? Obviously, I would love to run 3 Perulia, 3 Arrest, 3 Ghost Ogre, 3 Evenly Matched, but I still want room for the Lightning Storm Duster and some ability to use my Kaijus here, my Fiend Kaijus. Would I run 1 Golem and 1 Santa Claus? Probably. Just to have a little bit of versatility there. But, 2 Lava Golem is fine. You know what I mean? 2 Santa Claus is fine. Or maybe you run 3 and 3. I'm just showing you both of them to give you so you can make your own decision. Now for the extra deck. Based on everything I told you before, I'm going to say this right now. I don't believe Draco Stapelia is the move. Some people are adding that to their deck. I don't think that's the right move in the beginning. You don't have to run Invoked. You don't have to run Hyper Invoked Aeon. But you do want at least an additional option that can deal with spells and traps. And whether it's by targeting, destruction, non-targeting, banishment, whatever it is, whatever you pick, it needs to be an additional option alongside your Borlo Furious Dragon, your Fallen and the Virtuous, or your Chaos Star Source Dragon. Okay, that's just the way it is right now. With these Chaos decks coming in, I choose Hyper Invoked Aeon because it has the additional ability to also really screw with my opponent's extra deck. Even the decks that don't really want to special summon from the extra deck at all, like Blitzclick, will still want to save that spot for a supplementary engine like Ryzeal package, or for a combination of cards that have effects when sent to the graveyard. So, for example, a Blitzclick deck with a Nadir engine aside to it will still want those cards to do things for them, and they're all gonna want to run the Fallen and Virtuous. So worst case scenario, if I use my Hyper Invoked Aeon to get rid of the Fallen and the Virtuous package, that will, if I remove their Ecclesia or remove their 2 copies of Albion the Branded Dragon, then not only do they not get follow-up, they can't even activate the Fallen and the Virtuous anymore because they have to send one of those monsters as a cost. If they don't have the cost, they can't play the card. So it becomes a brick. It becomes useless. They can't even use a secondary effect in many scenarios. I'm talking about the non-branded decks, by the way, that end up using this package. Now, they probably are running Dogma Dragon, so maybe they'll run like 1 Dogma Dragon, 2 Albion the Branded Dragon, maybe in 1 Ecclesia. That might be what they do. That would probably be what they should do in response if they're not doing that, just to make sure they have at least one of the monsters available for Fallen Virtuous. Against a Transcendence Aeon, because I think this is probably the one of the biggest buffs to the extra deck for Branded, being able to, at worst case scenario, be a stronger version of the Chaos Star Source Dragon, right, on your opponent's turn, because you can't make this on your turn. You wouldn't want to make this on your turn anyway, if you do the Fall on the White Dragon line. This is something you do after you've established your board, typically. But it requires 2 different fusion monsters with different attributes to make this card. So 2, 3, 4, whatever. So against a deck that spams multiple fusion monsters or a scenario like that, you could super poly all their fusion monsters and make this. Now, if this card is fusion summoned, you can banish cards from the field and or graveyards, non-targeting, up the number of materials used. Then, if you use 3 or more materials, you can look at your opponent's extra deck, and if you do, banish up to 3 cards from it. So that's really, really powerful. Also, it's a quick effect that declares an attribute, and all monsters currently on the field become that attribute. Not sure when that comes into play. This obviously is a card for the Invoked Alistair line, so that will probably come into play more for the pure decks. Other than that, I don't think I care about that other effect a lot. But it is a 3,800 monster. right? So it'll be officially the strongest monster in our extra deck as a branded player. It's either this or a Chaos Star Source Dragon. I don't like the Draco Stapelia in this format because it's so easy to just laugh at my opponent and dodge it, dodge and negate, or pop it. You know what I mean? With my Blitzclick cards, pop it with my or by the time that card even becomes available on the field for you, you've probably used multiple card effects, monster effects in particular, and you've probably been burning for like for thousands of damage before you get to that point. Like at that point, you need something quick and fast to get rid of that burn against the keys. I mean, against the angelic keys, right? And it's once you get rid of the fusion monster, the negate doesn't stick. Now, the level modulation seems really cool, and I think that's really good against Cool Tune, but they also have ways of dodging. So at a certain point, it's not worth the squeeze for this card. You need something more impactful, and I think having another form of non-targeting removal in your extra deck is going to be really powerful. A lot of people are also using Borlo Furious Dragon over Chaos Sorceress, which makes sense, especially if you're going to be running Bestials like the Magnuma, which you should be in your main. Or you may have room for an additional Bestial in your side, but I don't think with the way things are looking at right now, I don't know what I'm going to take out to have room for more Bestials. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird. I will have to put them in the main and then figure the rest out. But one reason people like this card is that you have infinite pops. If you combine it with the Dragon that Devours a Dogma. You target Dogma, and you target the card you want to pop with the Borreload Furious Dragon. Their card pops, your Dogma is fine because it's unaffected by all of their card effects. So it's a really good, cool interaction that gives you constant pops that you are probably going to need in the upcoming format. So I do think Borreload Furious Dragon becomes, in a sense, a must-play. Because if you have to use your Chaos Star Source Dragon, for example, you use the effect, and now you have to essentially put yourself in a position where nothing goes wrong, you put it back in the deck or the extra deck, and then summon it again later. That's a lot of effects that will cause you against Angelica to get burned out before you get a chance to do it again. And that's if they don't even disrupt you, right? You know, it would have to be a perfect scenario. So I'd rather you just keep the Furious Dragon. If they do kill it, you can just bring it back with Fallen Virtuous and do it again, right? And that's just one of the things about the Fallen Virtuous I think we have to look at more. We have to look more at the secondary effect than the first effect because there's too many card effects that will dodge the Fallen and Virtuous right now with the new decks right now. And especially with Blitzclick, they might even get advantage off the destruction. So moving on, Mixuzia, a must play. It's a common too, so there's no excuse. Mixuzia will give you an additional method of quick play fusion, which gives you additional utility and the ability to flex and pivot when your opponent's trying to do all these interruptions. The most versatile end board you're probably going to want to try to set up is a board with a Cartesia and a Mixuzia available instead of the Mirror Jade in its place. Although you might be able to create a line, if you can, that has access to Albaz anyway, while the Mirror Jade is on the board. If you want to go Mirror Jade, that's fine. But I think it probably is better to go into to set up into a Borlo Furious Dragon or Transcendence, and then get the Mirror Jade later when that becomes important, because the spell and trap removal is going to be probably your first priority in many matchups, to make sure they don't get advantage off of the Blitzclick field spell the way they want to, or the chaos. I mean, the Mind Shuffle doesn't stay on the board when they're ready when they activate the effect, so that they don't get that resolution. Things of that nature. I think Mirror Jade, ending on Mirror Jade, while it's still good, I feel like it's better to be in a position to have double quick play fusion on your opponent's turn. So my lines will go for Mixuzia and Cartesia on the board more often than not. With this current deck, we can do a 1-card combo with the Fallen of the White Dragon to set all that up really, really easily. And like I said before, with Invoke Transcendence Aeon, even against decks that don't like using their extra deck to like put big boss monsters out, they still have utility extra deck monsters we can banish. So it's still valuable in even that scenario. So yeah, that's my whole thing on what's happening with the current Chaos format. Um, this will be the end of the video. I am going to take a little bit more time just with the chat, and we're going to look at some videos later. But be careful, man. This is going to be very insane. In the first few weeks, people are going to come up with some crazy ideas of playing Chaos. That's going to be the most interesting and probably the scariest thing for Brandon. If you're not ready, you're just going to get jammed. And we might see a little bit of reshuffling of the tier list when these cards come out. Whether it's a variation of Branded through Chaos, whether it's Blitzkick creeping up, not necessarily as a tier 0, tier 1, but as something that has to be respected and annoying to play, or variations of Angeliki that are going to really piss people off and start screaming for bans. To be honest with you guys. Off the top of my head, I probably would think Thunder King Ryo people are going to call for that card getting banned. I think people are going to call for the Angeliki card that burns to be a one of, potentially, because it's so easy to set up. It's just so easy. And I don't even know what you would do against Chaos. I don't think you it's weird. I really don't know what you would do against him. I don't think Chaos is probably gonna be the best deck of the format. Some type of Chaos variant. Give it about a month and a half. Chaos will be the big gun. I see Branded hanging in there because they'll probably adapt and add Chaos elements to their deck. There probably will be a variant of Branded that will use the Chaos cards, or Chaos will actually just use some Branded cards and just laugh and stay at the top. I do see Cool Tune dropping a little bit, but not enough to where it becomes irrelevant because there's going to be less hate against it. So yeah, that's my opinion. That's what I think. That's why I hypothesize and prophesize will happen. So let me know your thoughts. Are you ready for the new cards in Chaos Origins? Are you prepared for Chaos Ritual? Are you prepared for Blitzkrieg, Angeliki? Do you know how to play chess already? Like are you kind of hyped for that? Because honestly, from a thematic standpoint, Angeliki is cool. You know what I mean? It's just that why it gotta be like that? Why they gotta do it like that, man? Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourself. And until the next time, where we have another conversation about Branded.